Ladies and gentlemen, Jack Lear's obsession with all things strange in his Night Gallery universe applied to a lot of things. It applied to very, very strong Broadway actors or character actors, and one of them was Joel Grey. Now, we're going to be talking, just another request on the channel from some of our followers. Actually, we've got 3 different people requested it. Now, there aren't any more MacBanes. It's considered the most underrated episode of the Night Gallery because on second or third viewing, it makes a lot more sense. But if you just watch it one time, you don't get the subtleties. But if you do watch it more than once, it really comes into focus. Now, again, some information we're providing today is from David Jewell's great WordPress site talking about Night Gallery. Now, the teleplay for this is from Alan Sablinsley from the story by Stephen Hall called By One, By Two, and By Three. It was directed by John Newland, and of course, the main MacBane in this before the denouement is played by Oscar winner or future Oscar winner for Cabaret, Joel Grey, Jennifer's father. Now, in this one, a graduate student attempts allegedly a sorcerer. Now, it's graduation day at Bard College, and Ellie Green, Daryl Larson, and Mickey Standage, Barry Higgins, still in their cap and gown, drop by their friend's place, a slightly older friend, Andrew MacBane. The way Joel Grey looks in this, very haggard but very intelligent, a typical older college student. Now, Andrew is a graduate student, struggling to complete his master in philosophy, and his benefactor, his uncle Arthur Porter, played by the underrated Howard Duff. Also a big part of the Twilight Zone episode, Rod Serling's previous success. He's already there and is running out of patience with his nephew. He delivers him an ultimatum. He must find a job within 6 months or be completely cut off financially, which would not only mean living expenses, but ultimately a sizable inheritance for the MacBanes, as he's the only living relative. Now, Ellie and Mickey are stunned at this and suggest that Andrew accept a position at a bookstore, but Andrew is unconcerned over the threat to his financial stability. Instead, he is obsessed with finding 10 missing pages to a journal of sorcery kept by a long-dead relative, Jedediah MacBane, reputedly a 17th century wizard who was able to kill at great distances through the use of black magic. This somehow got Jedediah himself killed after he killed his worst enemy, his best friend and his best friend's wife. Andrew was certain that finding the missing 10 pages of the journal will solve this mystery. The 3 young men drink a toast and then smash their glasses into the fireplace, agreeing to meet again in 6 months' time. Now, when the 6 months pass, the 2 friends meet again at Andrew's apartment at night, and as Andrew is still not employed, his uncle is on hand to disinherit him in person, which will become official the next morning when the bank opens. Because, it wasn't a working 9 to 5 bank. The uncle leaves and Andrew begins to recite a spell. As Porter walks to his car, we see red eyes through the nearby trees, then a growl, then suddenly something is upon the uncle. As we cut back to Andrew's apartment, we hear screams. Now, Ellie and Mickey hear something outside Andrew's door, something like growling and scratching, and he asks Andrew if he has a dog, which he says he does not. They leave and are on their way to the car. They discover Uncle Arthur Porter's heavily mutilated corpse. They rush back to Andrew's apartment and inform him that his uncle was killed by something wild. Now, Andrew inherits his uncle's fortune, but chooses to live in the family's old ancestral home, get this, Salem, a house without telephone service or electricity. Now, one night, Ellie, who looks a lot like a young Phil Simms, of course, the Giants quarterback, returns home to his apartment after work, and a young man is at his front door to deliver a telegram. Ironically, it's Mark Hamill, later of Another World fame, and also Luke Skywalker from Star Wars. The telegram is from Andrew and says that Mickey is in terrible danger. Now, what's weird about this, a little bit of comic intent with the short scene, and it kind of stood out for a lot of people because Mark Hamill at the time, very handsome young man, sort of like a Richard Thomas light. Now, Mickey was working in the African nation of Chad, and Ellie phones Mickey's mother, but before he can give her a warning, he receives the news that Mickey is dead, presumably from an attack by a leopard. Now, Ellie hears growls and scratches outside his door, similar to what he heard after Andrew's uncle was killed. He goes into the hallway, hears roars, and runs down the stairwell and into a basement storage area where the roars increase. Suddenly, through a grated window, red eyes appear, paws break through the glass, and Ellie, screaming, loses consciousness. Surprisingly, after a time, he wakes up unharmed but not unalarmed. He immediately goes to Andrew's house to tell him what occurred and to confront him as to whether he found the 10 missing pages of Jedediah's journal. Now, Andrew does admit he did find it and now possesses the power to conjure up the same creature his relative did. The creature was inactive over the last 300 years because no one knew how to summon it until Andrew found out how. He was able to briefly stop the creature from killing Ellie, but he can't fully control it, and now it's here roaring and scratching at the door. When it finally comes in, it's a bit laughable, as it's an old woman who with hooks for hands, kind of a witch, which would be scary, but when you're expecting a savage leopard-like creature, again, it's a big disappointment. The creature and Andrew battle it out, with both dying in the confrontation. Now, Jewel finds it ends in a disappointing way, but he feels that it's a taut, well-directed segment by John Newland, of course, one step beyond fame. Now, I agree with what Jewel said about Joel Grey's performance, because it was a big year for him. But really what works for me is because it reads like kind of a short story you would see in a modern Gothic thriller. And Joel Grey can take garbage and make it feel good. This is a 2-star plot with a 3-star out of 4 result, because the not say unknown actors that co-star with Grey make it work, because Joel Grey is a type of actor. Even I don't know if you remember the shitty last episode of Dallas where allegedly he played Satan, but Joel Grey can play good or bad or middle of the road. You can't take your eyes off him because he's probably one of the most underrated actors, pound for pound, of the last 50 years. And I hope you take it the right way. When I saw his daughter in The Dirty Dancing with Patrick Swayze, I saw a lot of Joel Grey's acting style in his daughter. I know it sounds kind of weird, but there's a certain body movement that Jennifer Grey had, like her father had, and what he says is believable. And this is a guy who says, I'm looking for the 10 pages, you completely believe it. Now, what really benefited Night Gallery and worked against it was good acting and bad acting. And again, the 2 other leads are not well-known actors. If you would have brought in maybe kind of a Gerald McRaney style, because Gerald McRaney was in another Night Gallery episode with the ghouls there and all that. If you were brought in a young up-and-coming actor, even like a Kurt Russell or something like that, would make a lot more sense. But it's so weird. There's a lot going on here. The Mark Hamill mini-scene is a little bit, different. And say, if you go back and say, hey, there's, Luke Skywalker in Night Gallery, it's like, but a lot of people recognize him because, again, he had done the soap thing in Another World too. A lot of people in my family or friends in Another World remember him from his short time there. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, David Jewell, 3.5. I give it about 3. I don't think it could have been any better than what Joel Grey presented, because it's better to have a strong lead than a weak lead with 2 strong supporting actors. Now, what's ironic about this, ladies and gentlemen, if I'm not mistaken, some areas of the world banned the episode because of the ending scene, or like the attack scene involving whatever this crane was. So maybe the crane was a shapeshifter. I think that's what they tried to see. That's what I got from it anyway. So we go for there. And Howard Duff is only on for so long, but my God, he chews up the scenery. Howard Duff, one of my favorite actors of what they call thriller shows. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you like what you're doing here, we're a Light Gallery podcast. Give us a like, comment, subscribe. And don't forget, if you really want to watch a strong actor, besides Sal Mineo from the late 60s, early 70s in episodic television, Sal Mineo and his Hawaii Five-0 episodes, those are the actors we want to see. And there was questions about Joel Grey's sexuality at the time, which were confirmed later on. Maybe a lot of that angst or tension he showed in his work. But if you haven't seen Cabaret, see him in Cabaret, but I would suggest this. Watch this first, then watch Cabaret. And you'll see what the diversity I'm talking about. He a tremendous, multifaceted actor. Thanks for listening. Bye.